Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to the like button. Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel,
please do that while you're here.
I mean, I don't even care anymore, honestly. Like,
you know what? I still do care. So please do that while you're here.
I mean, I do care, but it's a little bit like asking your kids over and over again to like, hey, get your shoes on. Like at some point I'm like, go to school with no shoes, man. I don't care.
You can change up your little opening script anytime you want. In fact, maybe for the new season, maybe you spice up the copy.
I don't know if you know this about me, but I am a creature of habit.
I know. Just tweak a little here and there. How about this? How about you let me write it, you edit it, and we'll do something new for the new season. That's all.
No, we don't have that kind of time for you to be writing 11,000 word intros to the podcast.
I promise to keep it. I promise to keep it under 200.
Yeah, I've heard you make that promise to Marcus Nelson before. I don't think you keep it every time.
Most people don't know who that is, but yeah,
everybody knows who that is. That's Marcus Nelson, the man that
our esteemed elite lead editor of college hoops over at CBSSports.com.
The man who genuinely keeps college basketball up and running at CBSSports.com.
That is right. The great, terrific Marcus Nelson, who is still on quite a high after going to see his Crimson Tide win in person on the gridiron over the weekend there. So shouts to Marcus Nelson. We're off to a wonderful start on this Big East preview pod. How you doing, GP?
I'm great. We are here to continue our previews of some of the best conferences in college basketball. Today, we're turning our attention to the Big East, where UConn and St. John's, at least on paper and in the computers, have separated from the pack. So, Norlander, let's stop here for a second. Yep. Do you agree that St. John's and UConn have to be 1 and 2 in the Big East in some order, and then there's a gap from 2 to 3? And do you have a preference? The Huskies.
I do have a preference.
I know.
Yeah, I have a preference. I guess we'll share that preference in a minute here. I think a gap is understandable. As always, I've got 5 storylines here. GP knows them, but I'll inform our live audience and everyone listening on the pod. This is my 5th storyline, but maybe the biggest. I don't know. And it's that there is a major gap in the Big East, and what teams are going to fill that gap? Will it be filled at all? Creighton is 23rd in the AP Top 25 in the preseason. There was not another team. So UConn and St. John's, comfortably, top 10 status overall, and Creighton gets 23. No one else got votes. No one. Not Marquette, not Villanova, not nobody. Is the Big East going to... Right now, the Big East is viewed as a 2-team league heading into the season. That's a problem for the league. For as great as UConn and St. John's is, and it is wonderful. I mean, the status of this rivalry right now with Hurley and Pitino and those two operating at basically near peak of their powers, if not the outright peak of their powers, that's awesome and is about as good of a thing as you could ask for within the Big East, all things included. But you can't just have those 2 teams carry the conference. Who's going to step up? Who's going to be the 3rd team? Who's going to be the 4th team? Who's going to be the 5th team? That's one of the biggest storylines heading into the season. But I do think, objectively speaking, there needs to be a gap that's reflected in the AP rankings. It's reflected in your preseason top 25 and 1. It's reflected in my preseason top 101, which we'll publish at the end of the week. It's reflected in the predictive metrics as well. There is a major drop off here, and as we get in most seasons, like we'll probably get into 6-8 weeks into the season, Parrish, and we're going to see, oh, well, look at that. Creighton's pretty good after all. If it's not Creighton, maybe Marquette and Shaka Smart do it. We'll get to these teams in just a second. Maybe Kevin Willard. I would lean toward there being a 3rd team that slides into top 20 territory, so it's not like a huge cliff. But right now, I think it is fair to evaluate nationally. When you look at what's in the Big East right now, the league only having 2 teams of top 20, let alone top 10 quality.
I agree with most of that. I think a 3rd team will emerge, but there are only 2 right now that are clear top 25 teams to me. I know Creighton is also in the AP top 25 poll, but they're not in my top 25 and 1. They're literally the only team in the AP poll that isn't in the top 25 and 1. And for what it's worth, they are 41st at KenPom. So if you look at that as just one way to sort of chop this up, UConn is 5th at KenPom, St. John's is 16th, and no other Big East teams are in the top 40. Now, to compare that with some other leagues, trivia time, how many SEC teams are in the top 40 at KenPom?
11.
12.
Okay.
Again, 2 in the Big East. In the Big Ten, it's 11. In the Big 12, it's 8. In the ACC, it's 5. In the Big East, it's 2. So every other power conference has more than twice as many top 40 KenPom teams this preseason. And I don't chop it off there just to, shape the figures the way I want. Like top 40 is largely considered like your NCAA tournament at large candidate. If you're in the top 40, you start seeping outside of that. The likelihood of you getting there decreases. So top 40 is an important range, and the SEC has 12 of those. Big 10, 11, Big 12, 8, ACC 5, Big East only 2. That is a real problem for the league, and honestly, a problem that could hurt St. John's and UConn as well, because teams do tend to slip up here or there, and there's going to be more options for you to take quote unquote bad losses in the Big East than say Florida and Tennessee are at risk of taking in the SEC. Michigan State and Michigan are at risk of taking in the Big Ten, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and how the Big East adjusts to that will be pretty interesting. I'm also interested to hear from coaches at Big East Media Day. For everyone listening now, this is just a heads up here. GP and I, we got more Media Day stuff coming this whole week. So get ready. The feed is going to be bombarded with tons of content. I will be at MSG on Tuesday morning, have a number of coaching interviews, maybe a couple player interviews that we're going to hit with you in your feed. Then GP and I will both be at Big 12 Media Day. We've got a lot more coming there, joint pod, tons of stuff. So please, the podcast, CBS Sports HQ, CBSSports.com. We've got a lot. This is a big week in preview content there. So this is just the table setter for a lot of Big East stuff that's going to hit the feed over the next couple of days, and then the Big 12 after that. More storylines. To me, the number one, and I say this half tongue-in-cheek and half for real, it's Parish against the world on St. John's as the number one team in the country.
Bring it on.
I do love this. GP was the only one to put St. John's even on that tier. Like, if you've got St. John's even 3, 4, or 5, that's not the same tier as preseason number one. GP's had them number one going back to the spring, has not wavered off of that. And I think maybe you would know this, maybe you wouldn't. I think you just said KenPom's got him at 16. Is that the lowest of any mainstream predictive metric, any other ranking? Is anyone lower than Pomeroy at 16 on St. John's?
I haven't seen anybody lower than that.
Okay.
I have not wavered, mostly because I am not a waverer. But that's really it. That's really the main reason I haven't wavered, is because I'm not a waverer. I'm just going to ride. I'm ride or die at this point with the Red Storm. But do I have concerns? Yes, I have concerns. But let me be clear. It's not necessarily in the KenPom number. I had some people, when the KenPom numbers published, they were sending it to me like, oh, your number one's number 16. Ha, 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 ha. Right? I get that. Yeah. I would point out 2 of the past 3 national champions started outside of the top 25 at KenPom.
Ooh, that's a good little nugget.
Yeah, like Florida last year was outside of the top 25, and UConn, the first
time,
for Dan Hurley, they started outside of the top 25. So there's nothing crazy about a team preseason 16th at KenPom winning the national championship. 2 of the past 3 have been worse than that. But we've gone from Ian Jackson's going to be the next great St. John's point guard to let's get him on campus. Hold up. He's not even our starting point guard or our backup point guard. And so that's obviously not great to hear. It could still all work out beautifully.
Yes.
But you cannot argue what is happening at St. John's right now is the plan, or was the plan, because Rick Pitino targeted Ian Jackson, secured his commitment, and then called him the next great St. John's point guard. That was the plan. Now he's not calling him a point guard at all. So this was not the plan. But it could still end up working beautifully.
They could have a guy from Idaho State that is that's running the show there in Jamaica. We'll see. Here's a quick reset on the roster. If you're just a guy, semi-regular reminder, because I know a lot of people, our numbers reflect this. We've got a great off-season audience, but once we get to this point of the year, obviously there's a spike in interest. We did a whole episode on St. John's in our summer shoot-around series. If you're at all interested in the Johnnies, you haven't listened to that, please go do and find that. I believe GP did that. I believe that was Mr. John Fanta who was on that episode. But here's a quick.
And John Fanta, my God, I'm just sitting around on Sunday night watching Sunday Night Football. Me and my beautiful wife. And she's like, is that John Fanta on Sunday Night Football? I said, yes. She goes, my God, it's really happening for him, isn't it? It is happening for him. Couldn't happen to a better guy. I like it when awesome things happen to awesome people. thrilled to see Fanta be put on the stage
No
that he's being
doubt
put
about
on.
it. Fanta and I will be on the same plane to Big 12 Media Day. And in fact, I trying to see if we can mix you in for a dinner. We'll see if we can get GP out. But big plans happening.
I'm supposed to go to dinner tomorrow night?
No, maybe after. Are you flying home after Big 12 Media Day on Wednesday?
No, Memphis is not the easiest place to get to.
So you're flying out Thursday.
Yeah.
And you're going to join us at dinner. I was going to ask you about this off air, but now we know you're coming to dinner with me and Fanta.
I'll have dinner with you and Fanta. Of
Mixing
course.
a little CJ Moore. It'll be a bunch of special guests from the summer shoot around. We'll get a little.
I'll have dinner with CJ Moore. I like a CJ Moore.
Yeah, we're going to make that happen on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
All right. Don't go too far. Eventually, you keep naming people, I'm going to be like, all right, I can't make it. All right. But so far, so good. I can hang with John Fanta and CJ Moore.
All it is at this point. Why don't you try and book that? Didn't Mahomes and Kelsey just open a restaurant? I feel like you're a man with connections. Why don't you see if you can make that happen for us? We haven't determined a place yet. So
I'll text Taylor and see what I can get done.
Thank you. We were about to talk about the St. John's roster real quick. Bryce Hopkins is on campus. Last time we saw him healthy at Providence, he was a top 5 player in the Big East. We'll see what he can be there. I'm not expecting Hopkins to be a top 3 player of value for St. John's, but I still think he'll be very, very good. That's why I have St. John's as a top 10 team. Other transfers coming in: Uzziah Sellers from Stanford, Joseph Stannon, who I know has looked well in the preseason, Ian Jackson, as you mentioned, from UNC. Dylan Darling is the Idaho State point guard, who I think is going to get some real run. They got some more rim protection with Dylan Mitchell by way of Cincinnati. He's still in college, believe it or not. And then Zuby Ejiofor, obviously the big name. We are taping this before the Big East Media Day on Tuesday. I appreciate the Big East for this. Thank you, Big East, because I think you're the only power conference that does this. You release your preseason awards and all conference teams on the day of your media day, as opposed to doing it after everyone's gone home like 2-3 days later. I don't know why leagues do this, but the Big East will reveal this on Tuesday. I expect Zuby Ejiofor to be the preseason Big East Player of the Year. We'll see if I'm right or if I'm wrong, but he is going to be the guy in which all of the centers around, pun not intended there, elite defender, awesome on the boards, both ends of the floor. I think he's got a chance to be, if St. John's is going to be what Paris says it is, then he's going to be a first-team All-American, I would think. Because if St. John's is going to be a 1 seed, it's hard for me to see how that could be the case and Zuby not be outright awesome. They got a lot around him. That's why GP's got them number 1 overall. But I will be interested to see who winds up being right. The folks that think, okay, St. John's, maybe 2nd or 3rd in the Big East and more in that 2, 3, or 4 seed territory, or GP at the end of the day. So I think that's a prominent storyline. Anything else on the Johnnies before?
Yeah, just one last thing. It appears now Uzziah Sellers is the point guard, and he's never really played that position. What's funny is he's never really been a point guard.
Yeah.
And didn't expect to be a point guard coming to St. John's. All right. But now he's the starting point guard according to Rick Pitino. Just some numbers on him. Career, like he's played 3 years of college basketball, and for his career has averaged 0.8 assists per game. Last season, a little better, career high 1.3 assists per game to go with 1.1 turns. So it's just it's not the way the plan was the plan is not unfolding the way the plan was presented, but there is still an immense amount of talent in the program, and I'm just going to trust the talent with one of the greatest coaches of all time, put that type of stuff together, and you get good things. But it has been an interesting preseason, undeniably. Like I mentioned, sort of tongue in cheek, I haven't wavered yet because I don't waver. I just wouldn't change off of the things that have happened. But if I were being completely honest, what team do I think is the safest pick to be preseason number 1? Like, I have no doubt this team is going to be very, very, very good. It's Purdue.
Yeah. I figured you were going to say that. Yeah, fair enough. But I appreciate your stubbornness all the same. Next storyline, will it return to greatness, or will we actually wind up getting something of a repeat last season where go in highly ranked Final Four / national title expectations, and it just doesn't go that way? We both lean that this is going to be a very, very good, if not great, UConn team. Solomon Ball is back. I'll have him as a preseason All-American. Alex Caravan is back for one final season in stores. Terrace Reed returns. Jalen Stewart, Jaden Ross. They have a lot of last season. Yes, obviously went sideways. We practically litigated the Huskies every single week on the show, as we should have. They were high profile. Everyone knows the story there now, but the fact that they were able to push Florida in a really, really good game in the second round of the tournament, bring back a lot of good pieces that frankly, that do fit with what Hurley and his staff want to accomplish. And they bring in, here's the key thing, Silas Demery Jr. from Georgia, a much bigger lead combo guard. Having him involved, I think, is going to be big. Malachi Smith from Dayton, they're going to be reinforced with some shooting. And there's some optimism about Braylon Mullins, who is a high level top 20, in the eyes of some, like a top 10 to 12 prospect in this class. He's not going to be asked, nor is his role going to be what Liam McNeely's was a season ago, but I think he can, put McNeely's injury aside when he didn't play, like in terms of production, like I think Mullins can be, 80% of what McNeely brought to the team. Him and Eric Rybe, I believe is how you say it. Big man who's going to get some real run there, alongside or behind Terrace Reed. There's a ton there, but I think, we're 2 weeks out right now from the season starting. 2 weeks, GP, 2 weeks. I think the curiosity about UConn nationally registers. I think it registers above St. John's. I think it registers as one of the 3 or 4 biggest national storylines, just because we saw how they had these fizzles, these blow-ups, these collapses, and then these bursts of really good play. What's Hurley going to do here? So what are your thoughts on the Huskies?
I think they're going to be really good. I think they have a better chance on paper to win a national championship this season than they did last season, even though heading into last season, everybody described them as a serious threat to win a third straight. We've talked about it a million times. It got off to a rough start. They weren't, the talent wasn't what they thought it was, wasn't what we thought it was. That was clear early. The Maui thing was a disaster. And then I think it just got hard for them to just catch their breath. It just regroup. They were playing catch up the entire season. I don't think they're going to have to do any of that. Spoiler alert, we'll get to it, but yes, I did name Zuby Ejiofor preseason Big East Player of the Year. If it's not him, it should be Solo Ball. I expect him to have a monster season. And you're exactly right about Mullins. He won't be asked to do what McNeely was asked to do, because they don't have to ask him. Mm-hmm. And honestly, they should. I don't know, say they shouldn't have, but McNeely didn't need to be doing all the stuff he was asked to do. I think they would even tell you that. It was just who else is going to do it? They got put in a tough spot the roster wasn't what it needed to be. I think they realized that pretty quickly, and last season was what it was. But if the question is, does Dan Hurley and UConn have a bounce back season and reestablish themselves as a true national title contender? Yes, I think that happens.
2 more storylines. The next one, let's talk about Marquette and Shaka Smart and his Golden Eagles, because this guy, is it stubborn? Is it smart? Doesn't bring in a transfer again. The only high major program in the country not to bring in a transfer. And beyond that, it's only the only programs that did not add a transfer in the past 6 months were Marquette, Ivy League schools, a few Patriot League schools where their scholarship situation is what it is, and then the military academies. Everyone else brought in at least a transfer. But Shaka Smart is bringing in 5 freshmen, bringing back Chase Ross, who I've got high hopes for. Ben Gold returns, Sean Jones, Royce Parham. This is a team that is being sold on, broadly speaking, heading into the season. Marquette, I think if you kind of scanned around a bunch of rankings, is looked at as a team that will land anywhere from a 9 seed to missing the tournament. And this is the season that Smart's philosophy really does get tested once and for all. If he can make this work, if Marquette can be a top 4 team in the Big East, if Marquette can be a team that spends more weeks ranked inside the top 25 than outside of it, then he will have ultimately cracked the code. It's not going to be easy. He is, I've talked with Shaka here and there about this. I'm sure he'll get asked about it at media day. Frankly, I plan on asking about it when I sit down with him for, a good 10-minute interview for this pod that'll hit the feed at some point on Tuesday. Why he believes this is the way. There are a few other programs that, Purdue to a certain extent also believe in trying to retain as much as possible. He's been able to do it. He has walked the walk. Okay. Not a single guy has come into this program. It is all about recruiting high school players and developing them for the most part. They have had a few here and there that have obviously come in. Kolick was at George Mason before he parlayed himself into having an NBA shot with Marquette and being one of the better players in the country. But I am riveted by this, and I will reveal where I have Marquette when we get after the break and we show where we have our rankings. But a mini spoiler, I am not siding with a lot of people that think Marquette will turn into a bottom half of the Big East team. What are your thoughts on what Shaka's doing in Milwaukee?
I don't think they will turn into a bottom half of the Big East team. I do have them projected as an NCAA tournament team. The way you presented it in the prep document was like Shaka Smart's philosophy, stubborn or smart, which, could be twisted into smart or dumb, ahead of the curve or behind, whatever. There's a million ways.
It's indisputable that what he is doing should be defined, among other words, as stubborn. He is stubbornly doing this. He is going against every single piece of momentum and the tides of the sport to say, I am not going to participate in this. And I think it's fair to describe that as stubborn. Yeah.
That's fine. I'm not nitpicking your words. I'm just saying you could frame this a lot of different ways. And I try to be self-aware enough to not get twisted up in it's clearly dumb, because Shaka Smart has coached in 12 of the past 14 NCAA tournaments at 3 different schools. Yeah. He's coached in a Final Four. He's more successful than 99.9% of people born in this country, and he's very good at his job. So I would feel a little silly just being I don't think he knows what he's doing. He clearly knows what he's doing. All right. All that said, this is not the way I would do it. And you mentioned Purdue, and that's a great example of building from within, but ask Matt Painter if he's going to get in the transfer portal. He does every year.
Yeah.
Okay. I believe this is a philosophy that can work when you've already got Tyler Kolick in your program, when you've already got Cam Jones in your program, when you've already got Oso Ighodaro in your program. But eventually those guys are going to cycle through, and you're going to get caught. I don't know if it's this season, but eventually you're going to get caught. And in the middle of that season, at some point, you're going to either say out loud or at least think, we should have got in there and tried to supplement our core with experienced players from other places who had already done it at the D1 level. That's what I believe. This is his hardcore philosophy now. You ready for this? He will not retire with this philosophy. He will adjust at some point because it's going to get him at some point. Okay. That's what I would guess. Do you disagree?
We'll save it for when we show our. Will Shaka Smart eventually go back into the Portland players? Yes, of course he will. But he will be only emboldened if Marquette is, a fringe top 25 team and able to get into the tournament, win a game or two again. I don't think he will feel the itch to change anytime soon. But again, that's why I think this is such an intriguing year. He's got enough pieces to be good. I believe they've got enough pieces to be good. But if you told me this was just a weird chaos year in the Big East, and suddenly well, damn, look at this. Georgetown's 4th, Butler's 5th, and Marquette's 9th. That's not unthinkable to me, and that would obviously advance.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's going to be this season that gets him. I just think doing it this way, you will eventually get caught with a roster that's not good enough. That's what I believe. And by the way, not to get sidetracked, but did you see the Cam Jones headline from earlier?
I did not, actually. I've been packing on. Today or yesterday, I missed it entirely. I have no idea.
Literally within the past hour and a half.
Okay, no.
Arrested in Indianapolis after a brief police chase.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's not good.
Wow.
Yeah, and the mugshot doesn't look great. I don't want to speculate, but the mugshot does not look great.
Oh man, no, I missed that entirely.
I mean, that's my little homie from Memphis. That makes my heart hurt. I didn't like seeing that.
All right, last storyline, then we'll take a break and we'll show you and reveal our predictions 1 through 11 in the Big East, and that is Kevin Willard and what he does or does not do at Villanova, both this season and big picture. I mean, he wiggled his way out of Maryland with a very public divorce, very messy. Maryland fans can't stand the guy. And now he scoots on up to Philadelphia. What does it look like in year 1 at Nova? Can they get back to being a team that is, ranked occasionally this season? And then ultimately within 2-3 years, can Willard return Villanova to a top 10 status? This season, they're going to bring aboard Devin Askew, who is somehow still in college. At one point, He started his career at Kentucky, and that I'm not even. It feels like a decade ago. It wasn't, but it feels like a long, long time ago. Bryce Lindsey comes aboard. He has experience in the league. They've got transfers from Grand Canyon, Temple. There are a few players that came along with him from Maryland as well. Caden Lewis is a freshman coming in that I really like. That it might be out of necessity, but he could be the highest volume frosh in the league. Villa, as I was doing my top 101 parish, there are always a handful of high major teams where I just find myself at a loss trying to I build it out. I write the capsules. I start slotting teams, and I've got one team at say 37. I'm like, do I really think the teams I have at 38 through 41 or 42 are going to be worse than this team? Probably not. So I move them around. Villanova, I ping-ponged all over the place. What are your, impressions and expectations on Willard? Big picture. We'll save the year one stuff after the break when we do our reveal. So let's just let's go a little bit more broad. Is Kevin Willard going to work out at Villanova? Is he going to be there? And by workout, I'll define it this way. Do you think that Villanova and Kevin Willard are still attached at the hip by the time we get to say 2033, 2034? Will he make it the better part of a decade there?
Yeah, I guess he could. And I assume it'll go well because it's a great program with incredible history and resources. And say what you want to about Kevin Willard. I know Maryland fans have a lot to say, but the guy's a good basketball coach. He was successful at Seton Hall. He was successful at Maryland. Maybe he didn't do everything at those places that you wanted him to do, but he did enough at Seton Hall to get the Maryland job, and he did enough at Maryland to where, they didn't want to lose him until they knew they were, right?
Yeah. I mean, it crossed a line at some point where they're like, get the hell out of here.
Oh, no. I know. But before that was a thing, it was
Yeah.
how about this? In January, people weren't sitting around we got to get out of this Kevin
Oh,
Willard
yeah.
thing.
I mean, he was at the head of the best Maryland season in
that's what I mean.
Years.
I mean, he did well enough at Seton Hall to get the Maryland job, and he did well enough at Maryland. He was fine with the fans and everybody else up until it became clear he, was looking over here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I assume that guy with this program, mix those two things together, it'll be fine. But it felt so weird getting to this point. The way they got here just felt off.
Yeah.
And you remember Jimbo Fisher, Florida State to Texas A&M, and it was that there was a build up to it, and everybody saw it coming, and it was getting talked about, and then it was I've got to take all this, I got to go here because it's the bigger job with the better chance, and blah blah blah, and it just never worked. It was just didn't click.
I know. To be fair, it wasn't nearly as public, but this was the thing when Willard went to Maryland too. Behind the scenes for 2 months, everyone just assumed Willard was getting the Maryland job. Now he was not nearly as public about that. But even the way that got negotiated out, I know what you're saying on Jimbo Fisher. I'm just he did this before, and it kind of worked out with Maryland. I don't think you can say it ultimately worked out considering how it ended, but
it only ended because he wanted to end it.
Institutionally, I could see how this could maybe fit, but it's also it's a tough gig, man. That they don't have FBS football. You can make the argument that Villanova is, power rank the Blue Bloods, and you got to draw a line somewhere. Villanova is either at the bottom of that list or it's the school that is just below getting into the club. We've talked about this plenty of times. I actually think it's got a case for Blue Blood status, but you can lose it. I think Indiana's lost it. And I think Villanova, if it doesn't in year one and year two under Kevin Willard, get back to, vying for Final Fours, then I think you can lose that status there. I do think how Kevin Willard is wired, how he coaches, knowing the region, I do see a fit. I'll answer my own question. I think we'll get to 8 years from now and he'll still be the coach there and they'll have had some good run, but it is asking us just so much to say, can you get us back to where we were with Jay Wright and dominating the Big East? That is just asking too much. But I think we will get to a point where this is ultimately working out mostly to the satisfaction of Villanova fans.
Yeah, I think it probably works out, but I leave open the possibility that sometimes things that should work just don't. And that's mostly what I meant about the Jimbo Fisher thing. In theory, that should have worked. Here's a guy who's won at an extremely high level for a long time at Florida State. Now we're going to give him all the resources in the world. He's coming with us. And then it's just nothing, right? So I leave open the possibility for that. But and broadly speaking, circling back to one of our initial points about, how many teams make it from here? How many teams are in the top 40 at KenPom? Some of the answers to those questions are tied to stuff like this. Villanova is one of your best brands, but has been down lately and isn't expected to be in the NCAA tournament this year. Georgetown is historically one of the biggest brands of the sport, been down forever. Xavier was like getting a 1 seed, under Chris Mack and operating at a high level before. And they just they're going through a coaching change now. So some of the programs that have been reliably really good are in weird spots right now. And that's how you look up and suddenly you've only got 2 schools in the top 40 at KenPom.
Well, let's see where Parrish and I agree and where we differ. I know we differ on who we have as preseason number 1 in the league, but we'll take a tour through 1 through 11 and examine the similarities and differences. But first, let's get a word from our partners.
You can't count on accurate expiration dates.
That is a rookie mistake.
Or the kindness of strangers. But thanks to CBS Sports, you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, Norlander, we're going to walk through the Big East right now.
Yeah.
I think if people have been listening to the first 31 minutes of this, they know that I've got it slotted St. John's 1, UConn 2. I gather you've got it in reverse, UConn 1, St. John's 2.
I do, but let's throw up GPs. Let's throw up GP. Okay, right. Oh, look at these quickies. There we go. We got it. It's not too much Tremont mark on the graphic before we get out of here. All right. So GP, I'm gonna read it off for our audio audience. Here is his 1 through 11. St. John's at 1, UConn at 2, Creighton at 3, Marquette at 4, Providence at 5, Villanova at 6 for Mr. Parrish, Xavier at 7, DePaul at 8, Georgetown at 9, Butler at 10, and Seton Hall bringing up the caboose. We have Seton Hall in the same place. We both have them 11. We both have Creighton at 3. And that might be the only 2 schools that we have in the exact same spot in the league. But let's keep your standings up here and talk us through a few of your thoughts here, and then we'll get to mine.
Okay, so Creighton is a easy 3 for me, but I'm just not as high on them as clearly AP voters are. We did this in the dribble handoff last week. Name a school in the AP top 25 that I think was you.
Yeah, this tournament. There have been on average over the past 10 to 12 years, on average 4 teams in the preseason AP top 25 don't make the tournament. Last year we had 3 of them. We had to each pick a team. You picked Creighton and I picked Wisconsin.
Right. And so clearly that's going to happen. It's just the nature of the way things work. But again, I'm working off of the top 25 and 1. Creighton's the only team in the AP poll that's not in the top 25 and 1. So they are by definition my most likely team to miss the NCAA tournament.
Team you have the least amount of confidence in.
Yeah, but I don't even think they're missing the NCAA tournament, or at least I don't have them projected that way. Yeah. So St. John's, UConn, Creighton in the top 3. And then I settled on Marquette. I believe in consistent winners. And I eventually think that Shaka is going to have to get into the transfer portal and supplement rosters that way. That he didn't do it this offseason is interesting, but I don't necessarily believe it's going to be a killer for this particular team. Like I said, I think it catches up with you eventually, but I don't necessarily believe it'll be this season. I've got St. John's, UConn, Creighton, Marquette, top 4, and all 4 of those schools in the NCAA tournament. After that, I go Providence, Villanova, Xavier, DePaul. And the Providence, Villanova, Xavier, I think you can almost twist up in any order. There's not much on paper roster perspective that I think separates them. None of them I have projected to make the NCAA tournament. And then, the rest you're just sort of filling out. The interesting thing there at Butler, you probably need to be better than this to keep going down this path. I think that's widely understood throughout the industry. And then the Georgetown thing, you pick 9th in an 11-team league. This is year 3 for Ed Cooley. This was supposed to have already happened.
Well, this was the one storyline that I didn't put on our top 5, but it will be, if Ed's still there in a year from now, it's going to be in the top 3. And I was going to get into, I agree with you. Like, you made the move. You, by the way, Providence fans are loving you right now. You've got Kim English at 5 and Cooley and Georgetown at 9. So they're going to be trying to make you about 37% Friar before long here.
Might be.
But Cooley left Providence, a place he could have coached at until his death and been beloved there, grew up there, the whole deal. But he leaves and he stays in conference and scoots on down I-95 and goes to DC. And I'm higher on Georgetown. We'll get to that in just a second there. But Cooley has done a good job at Providence, even at Fairfield prior to that. But you got to be a mover this year, and you putting him at 9th would be a failure if you wind up being correct, and it's within the realm of possibility that you will be correct if Georgetown can't get out of the cellar. And I would define the Big East cellar as 9 through 11 personally.
Yeah, and like I'm somebody who believed this would work. Like I'm a Ed Cooley fan, like personally and professionally, and like I was born in the late 70s, raised in the 80s. Like Georgetown basketball is a big deal in my life. And for it to struggle the way it struggled, particularly under Patrick, that was tough to watch. But I thought Ed would fix this. And he still might, and it still might happen this season. But if you would have told me, GP, it'll be in the NIL revenue sharing era. So like you can buy players, rebuild it overnight if you want to. Pat Kelsey's doing it at Louisville. Mark Pope's doing it at Kentucky. This is something you can change a whole program in a matter of months. If you would have told me we're going into year 3 at Georgetown with Ed, hadn't sniffed anything positive in the first 2 years as it pertains to like postseason stuff.
Right.
And now isn't projected to get there again in year 3, I would have said that doesn't make sense to me. Like that's a program that should have the resources, and they've got a guy who I know is good at this or has been good at this. He'll get this thing flipped much more quicker than that. And I bet you Ed would have told you the same thing. So again, I'm not firing off alarm bells like what is going on in the nation's capital. Actually, I do want to know what's going on in the nation's capital if you got a minute. As it pertains to the basketball program. No big alarm bells, but like I thought this would be going better, and it should be going better.
Well, I do think it will go better. Not a flip up my standing. We've got major disagreements, which it's refreshing to see. I've got Marquette 3rd. I've got Creighton 4th, Villanova 5th. I have the Hoyas finishing 6th in the conference this season. I have Butler finishing 7th. So the two teams that GP and I are the widest apart on are the Hoyas and the Bulldogs there. I've got Providence at 8, Xavier at 9, DePaul at 10, Seton Hall at 11. Let me tour just through a few of these roster situations right now. Creighton over the weekend. Exhibitions, folks, they mean just so little. But Creighton did look nice. They beat Iowa State. And I know Creighton fans who are very interested to see, Ryan Kalkbrenner not there anymore. 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the conference. Losing him, losing Ashworth. Pop Isaacs isn't on the roster. Jemiah Neal. They lost some real important pieces there. And now you're going to have to see guys like Jason Green, Isaac Trout, Jackson McAndrew. What can they do? I know there's a lot of optimism for this player, Nick Graves out of Charlotte. He had some really nice moments over the weekend there. Owen Freeman from Iowa, good scorer. Josh Dix, both a couple of Iowa players are involved there. And I won't say where they're slotted, but I've got Marquette and Creighton both inside my top 30 in my ranking. So I do think that the Big East will, over the course of the season, establish itself to have at least 4, quality teams that should be wearing home whites on that first Thursday, Friday in the NCAA tournament. So I will ride with McDermott to get it done there and being at 4th. But yes, we talked a lot about Marquette. So I have Marquette 3rd. I am going to, this is a faith play by me. Okay. This is a faith play. Well, Shaka, I say you're going to be the 3rd best team in the Big East and may well prove to be a top 25 team. If this is off, then I will Shaka will and I will, then we'll both reassess. We'll have a meeting. I'll say, Shaka, we got to start talking about this portal thing.
That's right.
Okay. Don't embarrass me. All right. I'm putting you preseason top 3 in the league, preseason top 25 status. Don't embarrass me. Okay. And so with that, all you need to say to your team is, there we go. Let's go. Let's have a season. I've got Villanova at 5. Kevin Willard's squad. We just talked about him. There's a lot of pieces to figure out. Sometimes just a good old-fashioned reboot can be really good for an institution. And I'm going to say that Willard coming in and trying to start fresh is enough to get them top half of the league, 11-team league. Top 5 is technically top half. You want to argue 6, we can have that discussion, but I've got them going 5. And then, yes, I will take Georgetown, whose roster, this isn't me being like, let me just throw a dart and see if it hits. Malik Mack is back. I think he's going to be one of the better players in the league, and I think he's going to make a major, major jump. And I really like the pieces they brought in the portal. If they click, like, this should be a good team. KJ Lewis from Arizona, that's a good player. Langston Love from Baylor can be a good contributor, can be a double-digit scorer for the Hoyas. They've got Jeremiah Williams from Rutgers. I think his role will be different and better from when he played a season ago. Vince Iwuchukwu from St. John's comes in, gives them some good defensive presence. I'd like to see him actually really. He's been a player that's had a lot of talent. He obviously had the heart issue going back to his time at USC, but can he step in and be a really valuable guy? I think he can. And so, yes, I will say Georgetown is 6. And then I put Butler at 7 because they bring back a couple of pieces. The names they bring in the portal aren't going to like blow you away. Now, Michael Ajayi from Gonzaga is probably the biggest one. But in just checking in across the league, I do know that Thad Matta and his staff, this is such an easy, obvious go-to talking point, but I do believe it. They feel as optimistic about their prospects heading into this season more than any other that they've been there. And part of that is because they had more NIL to work with by far than any other previous season. Matta's a good coach. Like, is it really gonna, it could, Parrish, is this really gonna, let's just go off the off-ramp here and I'll tee you up before I finish out with the rest of the standings here. But like, is his coaching career really going to end with 4 mediocre to bad seasons at Butler after being, what he was at Ohio State? He is a good coach, and I think that he is going to have his best season yet. But I know you had Butler at 10.
I mean, we'll see. But like, this is the way these things go sometimes, right? I mean, Tell me how you remember Ben Howland's career ending at Mississippi State.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's just like your Wikipedia page looks great. You get the next job and it's just like, this stuff's hard, so I'm not wishing that. And I'm not even predicting it, but
well, I mean, you are predicting 10th. So to be fair.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well then it's possible. Sure. And I think even you as a believer would acknowledge it's possible.
Oh, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
Yes, it's definitely possible. Part of this is also getting a funky feeling off the Big East. Just, I don't know, with a lack of for sure. Okay, here are 5 teams that, come on, all these got to be NCAA tournament teams. It just feels like there's going to be a few teams that got to just make some serious jumps, and maybe a couple teams that kind of wow us and finish 3 or 4 spots below what we thought. But we've got enough variety of thought here, which is pretty interesting. I've got Providence next after that. Jalen Sellers, Jason Edwards, 2 really good players. They got this international player, Stefan Vax, who I know has looked good. I don't think he'll start, but I know he's looked good to start the season there. Kim English, not on a hot seat season, but they weren't good a season ago. They do bring back enough of a core, and Edwards from Vanderbilt. They also got this Georgia Tech transfer, Duncan Powell, who I think is going to have some nice moments there. I think they're going to be up and down. I think Providence is going to be the team in this league where at the end of the season, they'll have picked off 3 wins against the top 4 teams in the league, but maybe have 3 losses against the bottom 3 teams in the league. It's just going to be a little bit all over the place there. I think we've got them relatively close to each other overall. You're a little bit higher on the Friars than I am, but I put them 8th. Xavier 9, first year under Richard Pitino. We'll just see. At this point, I don't know. You told me. I think Xavier is practically a lock to be as good as 7 or as low as 9. Maybe 10, I guess. It's a huge portal class, as you expect, with the coaching change there. And man, what a drastic change that's going to be from Sean Miller to Richard Pitino. I put DePaul 10 almost reluctantly, Parrish. Chris Holtman did make good gains, from a metrics ranking standing year 1. They made a big jump, but they did take their lumps. They were well below 500. I think they can get to 15 or so wins. CJ Gunn is back. He's a really good player. Layden Blocker's back. I know that they're feeling good about a couple of guys that got in the portal there as well. But I put him 10 in the Seton Hall last, and unfortunately least here. When they hired Shaheen Holloway, it was the go get him, make it work. And he was the right hire, but Seton Hall is by far the lowest in NIL in the Big East.
I feel sick for him.
And listen, it's obviously possible that we're going to whiff, and Holloway's going to do a really great coaching job, and Like, what if he gets them to, 6th or 7th in the league? I won't be surprised by it happening, but this is I think near universally, not universally. I think I've seen at least one projection that had DePaul at the bottom of the standings, but I don't know. Wasn't a good team last year. The transfers coming in, not that where you play doesn't mean that you're going to be a bad player, but they picked up some bit guys at some high majors, and then guys at Pacific and Fordham and Merrimack and Elon, and we'll see if those guys can actually be real contributors and make a difference there. But someone's got to finish last, and we've got the Hall bringing up the caboose.
Yeah, it's just he does what he does at St. Peter's. He gets the big offer at his alma mater. It's like a great story. And then the sport changes, and just makes his job. I guess the Seton Hall job in the Big East is always a hard job, but it just made it a million times more difficult. And there was the press conference a few years ago where Rick Pitino was talking, and he was like, "Yes, I came and got Shaheen's best player, but guess what? It's not because he wanted to play for me, and he would rather play for Shaheen than me. I just had a lot more money to offer." And like I did like that other coaches in his league were like verbalizing, you don't know what this guy's up against. Yeah. None of us could win there under these circumstances. And I just, that just must stink. Like there was a point in Shaheen's life where he was like, man, can you imagine if I could ever be the head coach in the Big East at my alma mater? And now you are that. And you must feel like, well, now what am I supposed to do? Because you are competing with UConn and St. John's and a lot of money.
And Villanova, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's just
yes.
You could take Dan Hurley, Rick Pitino, and give them that Seton Hall job right now, and it'd be really hard for them to. And so I don't like the idea of Shaheen getting this big job at his alma mater, dream come true, and then him just basically having to do the job with at least one of his hands tied behind his back. It makes it a real poor experience.
And I don't know Shaheen super well, know him a little bit. I can promise you the one thing he has not been doing is feeling sorry for himself. And I
bet he has a little bit.
Not the way that he's wired, man. He's not.
I feel sorry for Shaheen. And if I were Shaheen, I would feel sorry for myself.
Okay. Well, you're not built to coach Seton Hall, so that's what I think. That's the lesson learned there.
Yeah,
Let's get to the over under on Biggie. Parrish, I guess, spoiled this like 30 minutes ago, but what can you do here? I am setting the over under. Actually, trivia time.
Okay.
How many bids on average has the Big East received since UConn joined up 5 years ago?
6.
4.6. 4.6 on average. So that being said, the over-under, 4.6 teams that make the 2026 Big Dens. I believe you are going under.
I'm going under.
Yeah, which I appreciate from you because you had like
I gotta get this balance back out.
In the SEC.
If I'm going to have 13 out of the SEC, I gotta make up for it somewhere else.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
I got 4 in the Big East. It is St. John's, UConn, Creighton, and Marquette. We'll cut everybody else off right there. The rest of y'all can go play in Las Vegas or somewhere.
Okay. Last season, the Big East sent 5. Johnny's were a 2. UConn was an 8. Creighton was a 9. Marquette was a 7. Xavier went to the first 4, played Texas, and then Sean Miller went from one sideline to the other.
That's right.
5 teams in last season. I will go over. I will say 5 teams again. I will say UConn gets in and is a 1. Say the Johnnies get in and are a 3. I'll say Marquette gets in and is I'll say Marquette's a 6. I'll say Creighton makes it as an 8 and give me Villanova to Dayton in the first 4. Kevin Willard gets to the NCAA tournament in year 1. Let's go preseason awards, some hardware, player of the year, freshman of the year, and the transfer of the year. Now I want you to toss up GP's honors here so we can get a peek at him. What do you got, GP?
Zuby Ejiofor, preseason player of the year. I just think he's the right pick for, if I've got St. John's winning the Big East, he's got to be my pick. But, I could easily see Solo Ball winning that, or even, Ian Jackson or another St. John's player. But I'll start the conversation with Zuby Ejiofor. Freshman of the year, Braylon Mullins. He's the next great one to come through there. highest rated incoming freshman in the Big East. That's the obvious pick there. And then transfer of the year. I mean, we'll see. But there was one time a Hall of Fame coach told me this was the next great St. John's point guard, Ian Jackson. That's what I was told by a Naismith Memorial Hall of Famer. He said the next great St. John's point guard is Ian Jackson. So if he's going to be the next great St. John's point guard, then he's got to be the transfer of the year. But again, circling back to the beginning of the pie, he's no longer the point guard, not great or otherwise. He's no longer the point guard. So, but I still think he's going to score a lot of points for a really good team, and that could make him the transfer of the year.
Fair enough. All right, Nada, why don't you toss up mine? Because look at that. We agree on the transfer of the year, but not the other two. I've got Ian Jackson also as the transfer of the year, but I think that the transfer situation in the Big East and the guys that are going to step in and be high producers, something tells me we're going to miss, and it's not going to be someone on St. John's or UConn, and it sure as hell can't be anyone on Marquette, but there could be just someone that steps in and is a major player and someone else winds up being the best inbound transfer. But we both agree, Ian Jackson. By virtue of taking UConn to win the league, I have Solo Ball being the player of the year, and I did take it narrowly over Zuby Ejiofor. I can see a situation in which UConn wins the regular season, is the better seed in the tournament, but Ejiofor is just such a stat beast and so valuable to what St. John's does that he actually winds up winning the league player of the year, even if St. John's doesn't win the regular season championship. I will go with Solo Ball there. So Solomon Ball is also going to have competition within his own team, but we'll see if I'm right. We'll see if I'm wrong. I think Solo Ball is going to have a litany of moments this season where he's going for 20 plus and hitting huge shots from deep, one of the best 3-point shooters in the country, and being the most prominent face on a resurgent UConn team that gets back into the title winning conversation. And then freshman of the year, I hinted at this earlier. I shied away from Mullins because of how much UConn has. I think Caden Lewis at Villanova is going to be the player that gets them into the tournament. I've got Nova making the field of 68, and I think that he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton and wind up being a guy that just has the highest usage, and is also a pretty damn good freshman. So I will go with Caden Lewis at Villanova being the Big East freshman of the year. I like this pod, GP. We've had some good disagreements there, a little variety of thought. I don't like it when we always wind up on the same page on a ton of stuff here, and so I think this conference, more than really any other, we've gone our different ways on it. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, but like one more thing before we get out of here, because I don't think we've touched on it, but I need to get your thoughts. It's the Big East preview.
Okay. I don't know where you're going to go right now. Folks, if you're listening to the pod and hear Parrish's tone when he talks, I think you're like, what is he going to say? Just know I'm right there with you. I have no idea what the hell's coming next.
I just feel like we didn't touch on it, and it's a Big East preview. Got to ask the question.
Oh, boy.
Let's go.
How do you believe Dan Hurley is going to behave on the sidelines this season?
Oh, my gosh. This is like a serious question. I thought there was some random who knows what.
No, it's the most unserious question. Okay. I don't care. I don't care. Because I was listening. I got asked this the past couple of weeks, and I'm like,
yes, it's fair that I didn't put that on the story.
I hope it's never mentioned. Yeah. I don't care. Here's where I am on Dan Hurley's sideline behavior. I don't care. Okay, he's an awesome basketball coach. He's going into the Hall of Fame someday. He's got a beautiful family. His bosses don't seem to care that much. His fans don't seem to care that much. He is either going to continue to do what he does and be successful, or he'll stop doing it at some point, or he'll cross a line at some point, and we'll deal with that when we have to deal with it. But outside of that, just like whatever, man. Like the thing I promise to talk about less than anything else on this podcast this season is the way Dan Hurley looks or acts on the sideline. I'm done with the story. I don't care. Like, he could do anything, and I don't care unless it clearly crosses a line where his bosses care. Short of that, I'm over it. Man, do whatever you want to. Put your pants on your head. It doesn't matter to me.
Two rings, Baldy.
Like that one. I also like this one.
Squirrels, squirrel person, squirrels. But a squirrel, I think that's a squirrel.
Dan, we need another drop here because I
think that's a squirrel.
I love the squirrel drop. Anyone that leads their podcast talking about Dan Hurley's sideline demeanor in advance of the 25-26 season.
I think that's a squirrel.
I think that's a squirrel.
It's definitely a squirrel.
By the way, that's a show we're about done, but I got to be honest here. I don't feel like squirrel is one, but I need you to random. I don't have a lot of no context preview material from this one, so a squirrel can be one. But I need you just to 3 random things off the top of your head that I can just that I can tease the folks with no context. They can't be basketball related. Just 3 random things.
Sure. The Perfect Neighbor on Netflix, new documentary.
Never heard of it. Okay.
Great.
I watched Industry season 1, and I'm like, people say the show is good. It did nothing for me, but I'm going to stick with it. Industry.
I don't know.
Industry. It's on HBO.
Okay, I haven't watched that one.
People said it was good.
New documentary on Netflix. 1 episode, like an hour 40 minutes. So it's not like I'm trying to get you to watch 10 parts. It's hour 40. The premise is, it looks like a low-income neighborhood. Just families, kids running around, the whole thing.
Yep.
And one old-ass white woman, Karen, moves into the neighborhood, and the entire documentary is basically police body cam footage, and there's no narrator. You're just watching this.
I got no desire. Like
I'm telling you, it is great, and you won't know it's great as you're watching it. Like for the first 10, 20, 30, you're like, all right, what are we doing here? Like, I got it. It's just body cam footage. I got it. All right, here we are again. Same thing. I got it. And then you're like, what in the? It grabs you, and I'm telling you, we watched it Saturday night, and
said it scared the crap out of him. So
my wife and I at this exact same time burst into tears.
Watching this. No desire.
Like I look up.
What do you want to watch? Something that's going to scare the crap out of you and might cause you to cry. I'm good.
I looked up, like we're having a good night. Everything's fine. And we're both tears coming down our face. It's if you want to feel something when you watch a documentary, this will make you feel something, probably anger, hopefully anger, but it's terrific. I can't recommend it enough.
Two other things.
Okay. Task. You want another TV one?
No second TV show. No.
Okay.
What's the last thing you ate? What's the last thing you ate? What's the last thing you ate?
I haven't eaten today yet.
You haven't eaten a thing?
Mm-mm.
It's 2:00 your time. You haven't eaten today?
No, I'm fasting in the mornings.
It's not the morning. It's mid-afternoon.
I know, but I've been talking for like 4 straight hours.
What's the first thing you're going to eat today?
I will pick my boys up from school here in about an hour,
yep.
And I will say, "Hey, boys, are you hungry?" And they will normally say yes, unless they want to get home for some specific reason to play a game or something. They will say yes, and I'll say, "What sounds good?" And it might be a smoothie. We tend to go by Smoothie King.
Smoothie King.
Yeah, Smoothie King. Oh, three smoothies these days run you about $30. It is wild. You can get double vodka sodas cheaper than you can get a smoothie. What are we doing?
That's crazy. I got the last no context.
Hey, Treya Savage. Do you know about Treya Savage?
No.
Oh man, he's great. Blue Jays pitcher. Won Game 6 last night. 22 years old. He started the season.
I didn't watch the game. Yeah, I knew they were playing. I had it on mute.
He's 22 years old. Started the season in low A ball. Okay. Played college at East Carolina. What I'm about to tell you is true. In the year 2024, he pitched against the University of Memphis. In Memphis.
It's always a Memphis connection.
All right. Struck out like 12, just killed them. Got drafted, first round pick. Started the season in A ball, worked all the way up through the majors. Got 3 starts in the regular season. Has now 3 starts in the postseason. He's beaten the Yankees and last night beat the Mariners in Game 6. This is like one of those things you can't see in other sports. Like this is unique to baseball. You are not going to watch the NBA playoffs this upcoming season. And Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals, some dude that started in the G League and has only played in 6 career NBA games is the star of Game 6. Like that does not happen in the NFL. It does not happen in the NBA. And I get it. Apples, oranges, different way they do sports, whatever. But I love stuff like this. Treya Savage, wonderful story. He'll be watching Game 7 tonight after guiding the Blue Jays to a Game 6 win.
Well, okay. last thing, and let's get out of here. Who are you? Both of these teams are eminently rootable for.
Yes.
Who do you want to see win Game 7?
Seattle, because
Same.
I like
Seattle do it.
because they've never been there.
Yep, never been there.
Big dumper.
I just me and my buddy Ken Griffey Jr. just got to know each other a month ago at the Ryder Cup. Plenty of reasons to root for Seattle.
And then it's America against Canada. On the other hand, we could get an LA versus Toronto World Series. Squabble up. Squabble up.
Okay.
Squabble up. We could get Toronto against LA. Squabble up.
I'm good with either. We can wrap, but since we're on the topic of baseball real quick, my wife on Friday just was like, I'm tired. I'm going to go to, it was like 8:40. And I was like, you're going to bed at 8:40? She's like, I'm just exhausted. I was like, fine. But that enabled me to have Dodgers on the big TV and to just watch Shohei Ohtani put on one of the all-time sports performances ever. I was glad that I was able to watch it as it was happening and not catch it in the 8th inning. I saw it basically from start to finish. And Friday night was actually an awesome night in general between the other game and
I got to sit with my family and watch it, and it was like I love Friday night because I was able to recognize in real time I am experiencing something right now with my kids that they are going to watch they'll see this for the rest of their lives, and they'll remember this for the rest of their lives. Because I told this story earlier, Kurt Gibson's Game 1 homer, 88 World Series. I remember being at Uncle Hull and Aunt Pammy's house. I saw that live. I was at my cousin's house. I have that memory. You know me. I don't remember Final Fours, but I remember that. I told Bobby Hurley this story. When Duke upsets UNLV in the NCAA Tournament Final Four, undefeated UNLV, I was at my dad's friend Bernie. I was at Bernie's house. We watched that together. I remember watching that with my dad and my brother and Bernie. I don't know why that stands out, but there's something about historically significant sporting things, sports events that can stay with you. And you remember not just the event, but where you were at and who you were with. And I'm confident my kids got to do that. And we all got to do that on Friday night. And that was, in terms of individual sports performances, that is as good as it gets. For people who aren't aware, 6 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, gave up 0 runs, 3 for 3 at the plate, 3 home runs, including one that went out of the GD Stadium.
He had more home runs than hits allowed, I believe. I think that was 3-2 in that game. I think he allowed 2 hits and had 3 homers. Just
incredible.
Awesome stuff.
Awesome stuff.
That's a college basketball podcast.
That's the college basketball podcast. Let's get out of here. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Terry Teagle. He's a legend. Huck, Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching and listening to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So please do that. We'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.